I think it's logical now to transition to the record prediction. I will go first. I'll let you finish afterwards. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the over/under on their win still 76.5?
It depends on where you look. I've seen as high as 78.5, but it's between 76.5 and 78.5.
Okay. I think that that's a pretty fair number. Sports gambling has recently been legalized in Massachusetts. Woo, woo. But I have tried to learn how to bet different sports. Now, I haven't necessarily gotten into baseball yet, and who knows if I'll be good at it. But if I had to place a wager on this, responsibly, of course, I think that's about where I want to put them. I really worry, as you said, this roster, this team comes down to pitching, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic or pessimistic when I say that I just can't trust it. I can't trust them being healthy. And I can't trust them being consistent. So if I had to guess, I'll go with 77 wins. I'm putting it just above the over, so if I were to bet on that, it would hit on that number, but I'm not willing to go any farther than that at this point. Now, I will say, of all the teams in town, the Red Sox are the most likely to pull a rabbit out of their hat and just go on a run for no reason at all. Think 2021, think 2013. So I rule out nothing when it comes to Alex Cora and company, because, again, he's managed to pull out these runs before. I think 77 is fair, though, personally.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about the pitching staff, there is reason to think they're not going to be healthy because they currently aren't. I mean, Whitlock and Bayo will be back. Whitlock's something that they already knew they may play it slow with because he had off-season surgery on his hip. Bayo was kind of a freak thing, and they just played the slow game with. He'll probably miss a turn or two. But Paxton, as Paxton does,
Yep.
is on the injured list to start the season. But he looked good for that inning and 2/3. I'll tell you that much. But if I had to set the over/under at inning and 2/3 for the regular season, I don't know what I would take though.
I mean, hey, he's been out for he's made an inning and 2/3 worth of appearances for the Red Sox in 2 years. So, going on 2 years, is his second season with the team, but still, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, Sale's healthy at the moment, but his arm's healthy. So his arm's healthy, and I mean, he probably would have finished last season and been fine had he not taken a line drive off of his hand in New York.
Oh, then biking, remember?
Yeah, and then biking, but he probably wouldn't have come back at that point. They were out of it when he was scheduled to return. But anyway, Kluber finally had a healthy year last year. I know he'd had some injury issues the previous few seasons, probably just because he was in Tampa Bay, because they seem to find a way to keep guys from being themselves.
Well,
for the sake of making the playoffs. But
okay, I was gonna say that works both ways though, because they pull out some career years from some guys and then ship them off for prospects.
Yeah, but I think with this pitching staff, and I think the best way to characterize them, assuming health, which you can't do with this group, but assuming health, very low floor, very high ceiling. Like, this rotation has some dudes in it that could be really good. I know Tanner Houck hasn't looked the part in spring training with the 9.5.
He got shelled again, didn't he?
Yeah. If he's gonna have to tip his cap and call Matt Olson his daddy. Thankfully, he doesn't have to face him that many times in the regular season. But I mean, Houck's got great stuff. Whitlock's got great stuff. I mean, all these guys have great stuff. It's just a matter of doing it consistently and then staying healthy for. I mean, you won't get the full 162. I'll call it if everybody in the rotation that we expect, if they're fully healthy, in that rotation, what we expect it to be, if they each make at least 25 starts, I think this team will make the postseason. There's just too much talent. But I mean, they have to make 25 starts. Like, do you really feel like Paxton's making 25 starts?
God, no.
I mean, Houck will be in the bullpen probably when everyone comes back because they're going to go to a 5-man rotation. But I think Sale will give you, like, if the over-under was 25, a flat 25 on Sale starts, I'd push that. I would bet on a push there. I think 25 is a very fair number. Kluber, I figure, will be in the 25 to 27 range, whatever. I mean, it ultimately comes down to consistency and health, but these guys have stuff to be a very, very good rotation. It's just a matter of actually proving it.
All right, let me ask you some questions here, based on this team, based on what you've said so far, and just kind of like big picture stuff. Do you want them to go to a six-man rotation? Do you want them to move Houck to the bullpen for sure? Do you think that that six-man rotation would allow some of your other guys to even get more rest, less likely to get injured, a la Sale, especially?
I'd probably stick with the 5-man and use a guy like Cutter Crawford or Nick Pivetta or Josh Winkowski as like a swingman. You know, if a guy in the rotation can't go longer than 3 or 4 innings, you can get 3 innings out of them, out of the bullpen. Because I want to protect the bullpen. And if you go 6-man rotation, that's one less reliever you carry. So if 1 or 2 guys in that 6-man turn can't go deep into a game, you're really going to kick your bullpen's ass. So I would stick to a 5-man when Bayo, Whitlock, and Paxton. But we'll start with Bayo and Whitlock because I know for a fact they will breathe on a major league field this season. When they're back, Houck I'd kick to the pen, and Pivetta I would find a new team for.
I'm okay with that.
If the bullpen was healthy, if the rotation was healthy, I don't think Pivetta would be on the major league roster on opening day. I think he would have been traded by now. He and Dahlbeck would have found their way onto another team as like fillers in a bigger deal or whatever. But I would stick with a 5-man. I think Houck is kind of perfect in that like long relief bulk guy kind of role. I feel the same way about Cutter Crawford, who's currently the 4th starter, I believe. At least the first trip to the rotation, he's the 4th starter. And that's really cool for him because I think he's much better than his numbers showed last year. But yeah, I'd stick with a 5-man rotation.
Okay. I forgot what the other question I had was. Jeez, I'm already getting.
Well, while you think about it, I'm gonna give my win total because I forgot to when I was going on.
That was actually the question. That was actually part of the question. So you give your win total, then I have a follow up.
Okay. I think they're going to win about 85, 86 games. I feel pretty confident in this group, at least offensively, to be able to kind of grit their way into some really ugly wins. Like I'm talking games that are like 12-10. Like there's gonna be some games where their pitching staff, like I mean, if Houck remains spring training, Houck in the regular season, they're gonna have to win some games with some like gross scores. And then like you got your 13-9s, your 12-10s, your 11-7. They're gonna win a lot of games like that, and there's gonna be some games where they scrap and win like a 2-1 game, just pull it out of their ass. This team is gritty. Like this is if you are an old school baseball fan where you're not into like, you know, hit for power, strike out everybody, etc. And you just like guys that are just hard-nosed kind of baseball players, this is going to be a team that I think you'll fall for, whether they're winning games or not. But I think they'll win probably 85-86. But I will, before you ask your follow-up, all I want to say is this roster, as currently constructed, and we'll assume full health, so Mondesi is back, Story's back, Paxton, Whitlock, Bayo, they're all on the major league roster. It is not a finished product. They have to be in a position to buy at the deadline. I think they'll be good enough to buy at the deadline, and it'll come down to what they do at the deadline that'll determine if they get up to 88-90 and they're kind of on the cusp of making the postseason, or they fall apart in September and they finish like you said, 77 wins, 77-80 wins.
So the follow-up question is this. You said that you think that they're going to be a playoff team this season, and even with adding guys and getting to that 88-90 wins that you mentioned, I guess my question is, who do you think is going to fall off? Who do you think is that team that maybe made the postseason last year and takes that step back? Because let me map out, I guess, my take on the AL at large. I think the AL's maybe, I don't want to say for the first time in a while, because the Astros have existed for the last 6 years, but I feel like more of the power in baseball is centered around the AL this year than even in past years, because I think the Dodgers are going to take a step back. I don't care who the Padres have added, they're still the Padres, and the NL East is a bloodbath, but we'll see what happens there. Yankees make the playoffs, Astros make the playoffs, and I believe in Tito, because I love Terry Francona, and you can throw the Guardians in there as well. So then you just have your wild card teams. I still like Seattle personally, and then it comes down to...
Yeah, Seattle is about as close to a lock for a non-division team, or a non-division winner, as you'll get in all of baseball. They'll make the playoffs, barring some catastrophic injuries.
Yeah, for sure. And we always allow for that, obviously. But on paper right now, I agree. I think Seattle makes it. So that leaves you 2 spots between the Red Sox, the Rays, the Jays, the Twins, the Angels, if you want to think that they can finally do something, and the Rangers. So that's 6 teams for 2 spots. where do you see who if the Red Sox are going to take one, who takes the other, and who steps back?
I think Toronto. I think Toronto takes the other one. I think the AL East is going to have three postseason participants like it did last season. Um, and I will say that I wouldn't be shocked if the Red Sox didn't make it, in the sense that like they're playing the last two series of the season and they have to go 4-2 to make it, and they go 2-4. Like I just, when I think postseason for them this year, I'm thinking like you're playing those last few series of the year and you aren't eliminated. And it's not like, oh, it's just all over but the shouting. Like you're within a game, you're holding onto a spot, and you just have to kind of, punch your ticket yourself. And then again, it depends on what they do at the deadline. If they kind of do this half-assed approach where they do kind of a buy and sell like they did last year, which I was okay with. I just thought the way they did it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I think if they play their cards right at the deadline, they should be able to make the playoffs. But I think Texas is a team that I don't trust Texas. I just don't. They don't. Really
it's more than fair given their track record.
They have the horses in the rotation, in the sense that like DeGrom when healthy is great. Eovaldi when healthy is really, really good. Andrew Heaney's become a really good pitcher. I mean, Martin Perez was an all-star last year. That's probably never going to happen again, but he was an all-star last year, so you have to consider that when you're talking about them. And John Gray's a solid pitcher. I mean, that's their 5-man rotation. That's a really good rotation. But offensively, behind, Seager and Semien up the middle, they got Nate Lau at first base. Adolis Garcia is very hit or miss. He's probably going to finish right around the league average offensively again. Jonah Heim is probably about a league average hitter, which is great for a catcher, but not when you only have 3 really good hitters in your lineup. I think Texas falls off. Until the Angels prove me wrong, I'm never. All right,
we don't have to talk about the Angels. We get it. I'm totally with you on this.
Yeah.
I'm the one that keeps saying, yeah, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs. Like, I'm very certain on this because I again, as you said, until they prove me wrong, not even going to think about it. Who are the two others I had? Tampa Bay and
the Rays
Twins.
And the Twins. I just don't think they're good enough. I think the Rays are due for a year where they just suck. Like, they've had so many bad rosters that carve out 90 wins.
Yeah,
they're
so
bound.
dumb.
Like, this roster on paper is not very good. And they have to have 1 year where it's like a prove we're not cheating year, where they just win like 75 games and they just bottom out, and then they draft a stud 4th overall, and then they torment the Red Sox for the next 15 years. But and then the Twins, they're kind of in the same boat as the Angels. I mean, I know the Twins have made the playoffs. They made the playoffs quite frequently towards the back half of the 2010s. But they're kind of in the same boat as the Angels, where it's like there's just something about that team where it's like they just almost have to prove it to me that they can do that. I mean, they were one of the best teams in the league last year for a while, and then they just completely collapsed.
A Metsian collapse, you might say.
Yeah, it was really bad. But
I would tend to agree on those two. I think Texas and Toronto at this point, just because Texas is gonna, if they have a problem, they throw money at it. That's what we know about Texas, and they've continuously done that. Much like you say the Rays are due for a bad year, I feel like Texas is due to have all of this investment at some point, make at least one playoff appearance. But either way, I think
that is very fair.
It's again the law of averages. I feel like at some point has to come into play with some of these franchises. It's
and
ridiculous.
You could make the same argument with the Angels too. Like at some point they're bound to luck into the playoffs, even if it's ugly. Like this would be the year that the last wild card wins like 83 games and the Angels sneak in.
Oh, like, please no.
That won't happen, but that'll be that's just how the Angels will have to get in, I guess.